Greetings, applied calculus students. Let's handle two really important concepts: how to take the derivative of a product, how to take the derivative of a quotient. Neither of them are as straightforward as we'd like them to be. One of them is far more straightforward than the other. So let's go do the product rule. The product rule says that if we're taking the derivative, this is notation for the derivative, of f times g, the derivative of f times g is f prime g plus fg prime. The one times the derivative of the other times the derivative of the one. So this is the rhythm of the product rule. One times the derivative of the other times the derivative of the one, and we add them up. Why? Why? Well, let's take the limit as h approaches 0 of this at x plus h minus this at x over h. Well, because I know what's coming, I get to do an algebraic trick. And the algebraic trick that I get to do, we're going to take this numerator and we're going to insert a minus and a plus, and it's going to be the same thing in each of these spots. And that thing is going to be f of x plus h g of x. F of x plus h g of x. And you're going to wonder, why would I do that? Well, because I know what's coming. I know that if we break that up down the middle, the two terms on the left have an f of x plus h, and that can be factored out. And the two terms on the right have a g of x, and that can be factored out. Right? So what happens as h gets closer and closer to 0? Well, as h gets closer and closer to 0, this part gets closer and closer to f of x. This part is always g of x. Well, what's this? Well, this is g of x plus h minus g of x over h. That's a limit. This is a derivative. This is g prime. Similarly, that f of x plus h minus f of x over h, take a limit. That is f prime. What do we get? One function times the derivative of the other function times the derivative of the one. That's the product rule. The product rule is so much fun. It's 1 prime 2 plus 2 prime 1. And that's the rhythm. That's the way this goes. For example, find the derivative of y equals x squared plus 3 times x cubed plus 2. Can we do that? Sure we can. The product rule is so much fun. It's 1 prime. Derivative of this is like that. 2 plus 2 prime 1. And that's not hard to put together, right? This is 2x to the 4th plus 4x plus 3x to the 4th plus 9x squared. This is 5x to the 4th plus 9x squared plus 4x. None of that is terribly surprising because, let's do a quick side note here. What's the original function anyway? The original function is x to the 5th plus 3x cubed plus 2x squared plus 6. And if you take those derivatives, you end up with that anyway. So that's good shape for us. That's the product rule. The product rule does what it's supposed to do. It gets us the answers it's supposed to get. So let's check out the other rule. the quotient rule. The quotient rule says if we're taking the derivative of f over g, well, that's a little more complicated. That's g f prime minus f g prime over g squared. It's the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. For the rest, you won't be scared. It's all over the bottom squared. This is calc, this is calc, this is calc. Why? Why does that work? Well, let's take a limit. We'll take a limit. And you already know that there's an add subtract thing coming on, so I won't surprise you with that. We do this at x plus h, so all over h. There's a this at x, right? The minus plus deal is going to be minus f of x over g of x plus h, plus f of x over g of x plus h. We subtract and add, so hold the value. And we're going to break this up right down the middle. So what does this do? Well, on the left, there's an over g of x plus h. And what remains looks an awful lot like a derivative. On the right, there's an f of x. And what remains doesn't look anything like a derivative. But fear not. This part's all fine. There's nothing I'm changing over here. We got to do a little bit of work with fractions. If we get ourselves, if we turn this complex fraction into a regular fraction, we get g of x minus g of x plus h over h times g of x times g of x plus h. This part is the negative of the derivative of g, and that's the important piece. This part goes to over g. This part is f prime. This part is f. This part is the opposite of g prime, and in the denominator is a g squared. Well, if we're going to combine them, we need this to have a g squared, which means there's an extra g up top, and that's what we had up at the top of the screen. Bottom times derivative of top minus top derivative bottom over bottom squared. That's what's at the top of the screen. And we can demonstrate, find g prime of x if g of x is x squared over x cubed plus 4. Well, we can do that. That's a quotient. So its derivative is the bottom times the derivative of the top minus the top times the derivative of the bottom. For the rest, you won't be scared. It's all over the bottom square. This is calc, this is calc, this is calc. Now, we'll have another video, another screencast, and that will have some more examples so you can practice to keep your skills strong. But this is the basics. These are how to do the product rule and the quotient rule. And we'll see you when we gather in class.